title of the panel you see there, or you saw there, but basically translated into English, the title of the panel is For Whom the Bells Toll. You know the book of Hemingway, and you know also the end of the book, the last sentence. So for the ones who don't remember, the last sentence is, don't ask for whom the bells toll, because they toll for you. So all the questions and all the accusations, who will be there, who will disappear, etc., obviously is going to be questioned. We have in the first panel three excellent panelists. From left, Petr Knap, senior advisor, EY Czech Republic. So welcome, Peter. Great to be with you again. Kai Lücke, Senior Vice President of ZF Group, and Kai and I have been working together for a long time. It was a pleasure and nice to have you here again with us. And of course, Martin Jahn, board member of Škoda Auto, and lots of experience in the car industry. Everybody at the panel has lots of experience in the industry. So welcome, Martin. We will have two parts of the panel. The first one you see in the front of you. In the second part, Rafaela Tencone is going to replace Martin, because Martin has to, I don't know if he has to, but he wants to see ice hockey, so he goes to, I know that you have to go. And Rafaela is a senior economist from EDA Economists. As I have said, two parts. In the first part, it will be basically a discussion between the panelists and myself, and among the panelists themselves. Towards the end of the first part, I will open it also to the audience, because Martin is leaving. So for the ones who want to ask questions, nice questions, to Martin, he will be here. And the second part of the panel of the whole morning will be a discussion between the audience and the panel. We will start by a short introduction from myself, and then I will ask each of the panelists to give us some introductory remarks, 3 to 5 minutes maximum, that goes to that should refer to the theme of the panel, and also give us some ideas. I asked them for 3 ideas what are key to answer the question of the panel. We have heard a lot about the car industry yesterday. It was a lot of theoretical side, microeconomics, etc. And we will run it in a slightly different way. We will be more pragmatic. We are going to talk about the industry as such. Yesterday, basically, there were no names. We are going to use some of the examples. And we will also bring a little bit more politics and geopolitics into the whole thing, because they play a very important role. I thought that I would give you an overview of kind of few issues that I believe are constituting the challenges of the industry. That would be a framework within which we can stay, but obviously we will go outside of it. And on some of the issues, we are going to elaborate through the discussion. So when I look at the challenges of the industry, and the fact that industry is today at crossroad, in many ways, I can tell you that the industry had always challenges. I have been working for 13 years for ASEAF, which is the association that represents the automotive industry at the European and basically a global level, and there was no dull moment. So yes, the industry is at a crossroad, but yes, the industry has been always at a crossroad and always full of challenges and pressure from the regulator, from the society, and also from, obviously, the competition among themselves. But a few of those things that we should not forget, I am putting them here in an order which maybe is not a correct one, but that really doesn't matter for the introduction. What we have today is the competition from China. We have been talking about yesterday. It's 26 million cars, 50% of the world market of electric vehicles, and a country that, or industry, that we, the Europeans and the Japanese and the Koreans and the Americans helped to develop. So we should never forget that the Chinese automotive industry was very much helped by the Europeans and the others. There is a regulatory framework. The industry has been always under enormous pressure through the regulator. And it was not easy to fight the regulator. And we will talk about the regulatory framework. The last issue was the Euro 7, and I think we will come back to it as well. Electrification has been mentioned, and we will talk about it. But it's not only electrification, it's also new powertrains. There is hydrogen flying over the place, hydrogen for fuel cells, or hydrogen for combustion engines. Take it as you want. There are other things. There is also autonomous driving. Yesterday, autonomous driving has not been mentioned. The industry is under pressure regarding autonomous driving, and it's not obvious from the technical point of view, but also the labor, the money, and everything else. You know, if you have to invest in the environmental issues and at the top of it, the environmental one, not everybody can afford it. I think we should not forget the trade issues. The trade issues are extremely important. In the past, the European industry has been fighting the FTAs with Japan, with Korea. We hated it, we didn't want it, because it was a competition which we thought was not very helpful for us. But now we have the whole problem with China and with the triangle China, United States, Europe, and I think we should talk about it. What does it really mean? If the Americans are going to decide to slump 100% of customs duties on the Chinese EVs, how does it affect Europe? How much will the Americans push Europe into a corner vis-à-vis China and our behavior to China, when we know that we need China as a cooperator? So, and obviously there is the IRA, which should be also discussed, and lots of people say, why don't we have it in Europe? Industrial policy, we have been calling always for industrial policy in Europe. We don't have any. We don't have any industrial policy for the car industry, for any industry. So I think that we should see whether it is something that is important for us. Labor shortage, flexibility of labor has been mentioned yesterday, and I think we will come back to it because it also frames the situation of the industry. Generation Z, demographics is extremely important issue, and we will come to it, and also it influences the industry as such. Consolidation is inherited in the title. I can tell you that 10, 12, 15 years ago, Sergio Marchionne, some of you know him well, some of you know of him. The ones who don't, he was very charismatic CEO of Fiat and later on of FCA. And he was always saying, Ivan, in 5-7 years we will have only 6 global companies here. Well, guess what? We are 2024, and basically, yes, there is consolidation, yes, there's been regrouping, but nobody has basically disappeared. So Sergio says it in 2010, 2012. Carlos Tavares said it a few days ago, that in 5 years there will be only maximum 6 global companies. Let's see whether it is true or whether it is not true. We have to talk also, and we have to understand, when we want to understand the problems of the industry, we have to understand the relation between the industry and the regulator. I have spoken about, I'm talking about Europe, I have spoken about the importance of the regulatory framework, but the industry and the relation with the regulator is absolutely key. Until 2012, 2013, the industry was, let me use the word, trusted. Comes 2013, 2014, 2015, Dieselgate, and suddenly, boom, you know, it's the access of the industry to the regulator is much more complicated, and we will discuss it. Last but not, or two last things, if you want. We have to also look at the relation, or at you know, the comparison between the time when the Japanese industry, the car industry, came to Europe, and at that time there were lots of barriers to trade. 3% in France, 2,500 in Italy. Don't forget that you could import only 2,500 Japanese cars, Japanese-made cars, into Italy until the 90s, and 3% in France, as I said, and limits in other countries, in the United States, voluntary restraints and things like that. So, and then the Japanese started to produce in Europe and in the United States, of course. The question is the situation the same? What is the situation between Japan and the rest of the world, in inverted commas, and what's the situation now? And last but not least, mobility, future mobility with the Generation Z. How are we going to move tomorrow? The industry is very often asking the young people, how do you want to move tomorrow? How are you going to move tomorrow? They are not interested what my generation, our generation thinks. They are interested how the young people think. That's why we go and discuss the problem that is created, the issues that the industry has to take into consideration with the young generation and the mobility, as future mobility as such. This is a summary of introduction. I'll try to put it into kind of framework and go also a little bit more into the challenges. As I have said, that it's important to discuss the challenges the industry has. I will now ask, I will start with you, Martin, 3-5 minutes introductory remarks, and then we will go to Kai and then to Peter. Thanks.
Thank you, Ivan, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be here in this wonderful premises. I always feel at peace here, so it might influence my speech today, as a warning. I will touch upon three things: automotive industry as such, then deglobalization, and then the last topic would be the transformation to clean mobility. Automotive industry has been and will always be one of the most important industries for countries, for regions. It has a big effect on the whole economy. It has a big added value for the whole economy. The fact that Chinese government has put so much effort, so much money, both public and private, and so much effort into the strategy to develop automotive industry shows you how important this industry is. And the Chinese government has 15 years of very consequential implementation of the strategy, which resulted in effect that Chinese producers are now becoming part of the automotive world. China did it for two important political and economical reasons. First of all, the transformation to clean mobility gave them the chance for technology leap, to jump over the combustion technology, which they could never master, and go to a technology that would allow them to become part of the top league and exporter in the automotive industry. That was one reason. The second reason was energy independence. They are not very happy about importing oil for many reasons, and clean mobility gives them the opportunity to switch local resources, being it energy or even the synthetic fuels. So that's why they did it, and because their strategy was very consequential and a lot of resources, they succeeded. After all, automotive industry is also sexy. You see many wealthy men investing into automotive industry, like Elon Musk, but there are also other examples. VinFast, yeah, the richest Vietnamese making a fortune with noodles, set up a Vietnamese original car company, which is still there yet, yeah, which is fascinating. So you always have governments, you will always have rich people who would want to be in the automotive industry because it's important and it's sexy. Because there are still some discussions about the automotive in the Czech Republic, I have to repeat, the industry has one of the highest added values in the Czech Republic, has the highest spend in R&D in the Czech Republic, has been paying the highest wages, so the positive influence on the Czech economy is undisputable. It's not just assembly, it's much more. I think we have seen it yesterday as well, the portion of R&D coming into the Czech industry from automotive is huge. We also got out of the COVID crisis as the first sector, and we are already above the pre-COVID production volumes. And that despite the fact that the automotive industry never received any special support in the Czech Republic, just the programs as everybody else. And the comment yesterday about nanotechnology and cybersecurity, you know, nanotechnology and cybersecurity, they don't have any final product, and they are a big supplier to us. We need nanotechnology for many materials in the car. Cybersecurity became a major issue now. I don't know whether you are aware of UNECE regulation, which basically has the same financial effect as EU7, but we just have to redo the software in all the cars in Europe to comply with cybersecurity regulation. So without us, there would be no nanotechnology and cybersecurity industry, because they are supplying to us and they are a big supporter of what we do. So that's automotive industry. Second, deglobalization. I never believed in deglobalization because I think it's not possible. The level of the distribution of work is such, and that you cannot change it. You cannot take everything that the European industry produces, or the components or materials that are in Asia or in other parts of the world, and bring it here. There is no space, there are no people, there is no capital investment. Deglobalization is can I say bullshit? It just cannot happen. Yeah? It's not physically possible. US started talking about decoupling from China. Then they realized it's not possible, so then they talked about de-risking, and then they are not talking about it, because it's impossible. The interdependence of US and China in production is so strong that it would badly damage both economies if they did it. So I don't know what will happen, but I don't believe that deglobalization is anybody's interest and that it's possible to deglobalize. What you still have are very unstable supply chains for many reasons, for the geopolitical reasons, for the problems in the transportation routes and so on. So the global value chain and supply chain is disturbed, and it's causing us problems. We have to change some strategies. We are trying to do more locally. Therefore, Škoda and Volkswagen are teaming up with onsemi. onsemi should be producing chips for us specifically, and we hope that they will locate the production in Rožnov, which would be a huge new end-to-end facility just for us, basically. So that's that. We moved some production of cable harnesses from Ukraine to the Czech Republic. So there are some things that we have to do, that we have to adjust, but I still believe that globalization will be there. Might have a different form, but deglobalization is just not possible. And the last issue is transformation to clean mobility. We will see a new pace. We now see that, first of all, complete transfer to electric is probably not possible. Even China, who was talking about it for a long time, basically said this year, to my big surprise, that they do not intend in the foreseeable future to go completely to electric, and they are considering synthetic fuels. Synthetic fuels are still okay for them in terms of energy independency, because they can produce them locally, not needing to import oil. But even China sees that to go to 100% electric, it's impossible. They are reaching 40% maybe, But they see that to go beyond 50, it's difficult. And even the 40, even the success of BYD is not only fully electric vehicles. BYD makes a huge amount of cars with range extenders, which is basically a plug-in hybrid, so it's not full BEV. In the US, you see now a big drop in demand for electric cars, which is killing Tesla, Rivian, and many other companies, leads to almost bankruptcies of some of the stars and unicorns in the automotive electric industry. So we will see how that goes, and Europe will have to revisit the plans. First of all, the pace of the transformation obviously is not coming as expected, and whether it's possible with all the efforts to transfer completely to clean mobility in 2035 has to also be revisited. The current trend shows that it's not very likely. So that's where I would start. So first of all, automotive industry will always be the key. Deglobalization is not happening and will not happen, and the pace of transformation to electric mobility will slow down, and the plans will have to be revisited on all the continents.
Thank you very much, Kai.
Well, thanks so much. Many agreements, and I hope we'll find some disagreements during the discussion as well. Great to be here in this place, and I'm happy to be here as a person, and we are happy to be in this beautiful country as a company as well. We saw the statistics of Sebastian yesterday, and in fact we are here with both production and with engineering. So I think I found myself on your charge, Sebastian, so reflected my worldview. Ivan asks for whom the bell tolls and for which EU manufacturers. I have it very simple. I'm a supplier. We never talk about individual customers, so I can't answer the question. So Ivan now goes, why the hell did we invite this guy? So I will still try to make 3 points that hopefully make sense.
I didn't say OEMs.
Okay, good. The first point is about the OEMs, the second point about the supplier, and the third one about the regulatory framework. About the OEMs, we of course all know, and we felt it in the room yesterday in the discussion, right? Lots of pressure on the European industry, lots of challenges, yeah? New player rising. I'm not that gloomy, yeah? We need to accept that challenge. It's a huge challenge, yes. But if I look at the amount of investments by European car makers, yeah? It's staggering. Yeah? Another thought, I think if you look at the press in Europe, most people, and you are asked the question, would you rather be an old European car maker or a new Chinese car maker? I think most people would answer, sure, we want to be the new Chinese guys, right? Now, we might have 100 of them, right? And we have new players also in the West Coast and many players offering fully electric models in China. And we have maybe 10 big players in Europe. In 5 or 10 years, how many of them are still alive, right? So what's the share of companies of the new players that are still making it in 5 to 10 years? Some will make it, but many will not. What about the share of European players that are still there in 5 to 10 years? I would say many. So I want to put one optimistic thought here as well, but there's going to be massive consolidation in the industry, but also among the new players. Looking at the supplier industry, it's often forgotten, right? Nobody, I mean, who knows who ZF is? Very few people, right? We are a company with 165,000 people. We are number 17 in the European R&D Innovation Scoreboard, but nobody knows who the suppliers are, yeah? And that's something we need to maybe change when we look at the success of the transformation for European industry, because while the car manufacturers have, of course, an amazing role in leading the industry, a lot of the innovations, employment, value add still comes from suppliers. So if we want this transformation to be a success, let's also look at the supplier industry and let's think how we can help them get into the future. I paint this with a big brush, right? But maybe for the supplier industry, the transformation is more challenging. OEMs are essentially amazing integrators of very complex products. It's slightly simplified, but essentially it doesn't really matter if OEM buys a transmission from ZF or an injection system from Bosch or a battery from Kattel, they still need to integrate it. For the supplier doing the transmission or the injection system, it makes a big difference which technologies is on the market, right? Last point, this transformation will only be a success industrially with a more supportive regulatory framework. Brussels has been decoupled from reality now for a few years in terms of the political discussion. And I hate to say that because I'm a huge friend of the European integration process. We need Europe to be competitive. But in terms of the regulatory framework, in terms of the discussions to make, for politics and industry to stand together, Brussels was not a good place in the last years. We need more realism in the discussion. We need to open the discussion on technological pathways that are broader and that are longer to get to that electric future. I don't think we need a U-turn, but we need a longer and broader bridge to get there. Yeah? And so, unfortunately, we also need to talk about politics and regulation when we talk about the future of our industry. I stop here, look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Peter?
Thank you very much, Ivana and everyone, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, especially at this place and with this audience. A bit worried about what to add after these three guys that altogether have, close to 100 years of experience in the industry. And they have covered, especially Ivana, you went through the list of 20 items that are all very relevant. So I will try to be a little picky on the topics, and from the point of view of the guy that has since about 2000 worked with automotive clients and try to see it from their point of view, their leadership and management challenges. So maybe a bit less totally macro, a little bit more micro. So also three areas to cover. I think that's the magic and good number since the old Greeks, the triad. So first, recapping some of the major shifts that I see currently happening in the industry. Second, what I see as the successful ingredients for the future winners. And three, maybe suggestion for the themes to still discuss today or how to approach the discussion today to move it ahead. So first, in terms of the shifts, besides what has been said, maybe stressing, I will go again, 3 items in these shifts that we're seeing. And I think we're seeing now a very specific moment when lots of fundamentals changing. Ivan is right that the industry always has been under lots of pressure. But I don't think that we remember in the past 60, 70 years or so that it would have been so fundamentally challenged on the fundamental pillars, from the customer to the business model to the supply chain. So that's why I think the tectonic shifts now are really unprecedented. First, what is happening, and that has been said before, is the approach to the product itself. Where is perceived the value? The very often mentioned ownership. Is it that important for Gen Z and millennials? Much less so. The individual usership, yes, that is important. So it's not the shared mobility that we thought might be taking over the world, but different models of financing the car and having the car to use exclusively without really owning it and having all the troubles with the ownership. And that's a big change, right? It's not so much a status symbol anymore. It's not something that I need to have necessarily for 3 to 5 years. So that's one big change. Second is also the customers are looking for different value and characteristics in the product. As any dealer will tell you now, anybody coming to the dealership, sitting to the car, one of the first 2 things at the latest is, how does it connect with my phone? That's the most important thing. Not the acceleration, not the super safety assistance systems, but how does it interconnect with my digital world. So the software part of the vehicle is now the absolute essence, and that's not something that the industry had been traditionally great for, and we still see the traditional automakers struggle to have this element done well. And the third moment, of course, is what we have been discussing since yesterday in the afternoon, is the global competition, the global supply chains, the dynamics, the automation, the consequent change in the business model, as well as the supply chain, and where the value is in the supply chain, and who actually decides what is happening in the supply chain, right? If it's the battery maker, that's the Asian 90% plus is the capacity and know-how in batteries, and that's now super important for the booming sector of somehow electrified vehicle, the XEV. If it's BEV, so purely battery, if it's plug-in, or if it's hybrid, so autonomous hybrid, always the battery is in there. So that's the first element of what I see as the big changes. Second, what I see as the elements of the winners of the future. One is I see now the R&D and the integration of R&D and production capabilities and integrated platforms as a great competitive advantage, because we see much faster innovation cycles everywhere in the industry. And we see, and sorry to the suppliers, we see that the model when a lot is outsourced in the traditional OEM world, a lot is outsourced on the suppliers, and then taking on the complex task as an OEM to integrate it all in the much faster pace, in bigger complexity, is now an almost impossible task, and it's slowing down the innovation capability. That's why the Chinese out-innovate in speed the traditional OEMs by the factor 2, 2.5 to 1. Is the speed that we regularly now see. So this is, I think, for the future winners, the fast innovation cycle based on an integrated platform is a very important component. Second, the access to core technologies and materials. I think this is something that we will see more and more as a decisive factor. Martin, you also mentioned it, we see very fragile supply chains, also driven by political pressures that can be now extorted, pricing and availability. This is now an extremely important factor, which wasn't before that much, before COVID. And three, what is very important, we were discussing consolidation, global players. We actually now do not have that many global players in the industry, by the way. If we talk about someone who has pretty much balanced presence in all the, let's say, 4 major global markets, US, EU, China, and Japan, we will not see almost anyone. We may see Toyota and Hyundai getting close to being present, but also Hyundai very weak in Japan. Toyota probably closest to someone who is double-digit percentage of their overall volumes in each of the 4 continents. Not many others. Also Volkswagen, right? A huge dependency on the EU market and China to a large extent. Small or so in the US and very little in Japan. So we do not have the global players, but I think the future winners will be those that are really globally diversified, therefore are resilient, especially if they have the production also aligned with the market demand on the block, right? Because I think maybe not deglobalization, but kind of regionalization will be probably a strong factor going forward. So therefore, you're more resilient if you have aligned production and sourcing capacity with the demand in the market or continent, and you have these more continents than 1 or 2 strong for you. And the third, to close up, what I think we should be discussing today is, of course, to what extent we can make it as traditional OEMs. I still having almost all my clients among the traditional European OEMs, so I'm very much on their side, even so, though I'm accused being on LinkedIn very often mentioning some of the Chinese successes. This is mainly ringing the bell of alarm that we need to really be ready for the competition that will be stretching us, not annihilating, but can hurt a lot the traditional OEMs. So how can we support the traditional OEMs that are in regulated industry, in the market, very strongly in the EU market, that said we will go down to 0, and Martin, as you say, no other of the major markets is is similarly aggressive in the ambition. They want to get to some percentage, 40, 60%, whatever in 35, but not to zero in terms of new combustion engine cars sold, right? So that's a double challenge for the traditional OEMs, and we will be discussing energy, workforce, etc., etc. Second is the predictability of the future. I think we can only think in scenarios. We do not know what will happen. We have a major decision factor in a month or so, like Chinese customs, what the EU will impose on the imports, and many other moments, like the new European Parliament and the approach to the year 35 and the whole emission regulation going forward. And three is, for me, so that it's a bit of positive moment, and Kai, thanks for leading the way in that. I think we definitely need to have the right mindset. I think that will be decisive, no matter how hard conditions we have, what competition we face. But once we have the growth mindset and the creativity in the companies, I think it's really a leadership challenge, and a big one, because a traditional OEM is a very much engineering-driven company, very hierarchical, very structured, very systemic, very slow-moving in a way. And this is something which is actually not that much fit for the current transition period. So the leadership challenge is enormous, but I think doable if we focus on changing the cultures along the way. So try to cover the changes, how we can be the winners of the future, and what we could have as a discussion today. So sorry for being a bit longer, but I hope that is a good input to the discussion. Look forward to that.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.